Hello and welcome to Mead Gaming's Hobby Hall, a special episode, as it were, for the fact that my co-host is available today. So a free extra stream this week. I will be riding solo on Thursday. Sad for me, but hey ho, there we go. So you get the bonus one because I've got the lovely elves with me today, or the flying sea snake.
Hi guys.
So welcome. It's going to be a fun little bonus stream today. A couple of hours chatting some hobby while I slave away painting someone else's army.
I wonder who that could be.
But hopefully you can see in the bottom right hand corner there, progress is being made. In fact, I'm kind of just going to use tonight as an excuse to finish up some stuff I was working on yesterday. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap over to the desk cam and crack on straight away. And we'll have a chat and see what's going on. So
sounds good.
Here we go. Desk cam, here we go. So, what I will do is I'll quickly show off what we were up to. So, last stream, which actually was only a few days ago.
Yeah, it was.
Really,
I think it was only Thursday night. Was the last one?
We did these little missile dudes.
Yeah, they're awesome.
And yesterday I went through and did a bunch of Night Lord's jump pack troops,
Who are also very cool.
which are quite cool. And then also a set of Terminators.
Which are my favourite by far. They are so cool. It's unbelievable.
Camera is not perfect here, but it'll do. There we are. They're looking pretty cool. They're not quite finished yet. They've still got a few details to go.
Yeah.
But they've had the wash and all that done. So it's literally a case of now going over them and adding the details.
Yeah.
And then these little dudes. That's your first Legion Command,
Ooh.
which has only had a few bits started on them. So I've got quite a few bits to go yet. So
Yeah.
that's what I'll start on. Get them done. Get a wash on, and then while that's drying, I shall go ahead and get all those details done with the others. So I'll work my way through as we go.
Cool.
So there we are. So I'm gonna get me paint set up and stop rambling about what I'm doing on screen, and maybe I'll shift the conversation your way.
My way.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a fun question for you then.
A fun question.
Well, I say it's a fun question. It's a 40k question, so unsure whether it'll be fun or not. But
Well,
we'll see.
Depends how controversial the question is, I suppose.
I don't think it's too controversial. It's more just like I'll ask you, and you can make that decision.
Just as a point, if it's controversial, that's fine.
Okay. So what do you think would be worse, right? To be captured by the Dark Mechanicum
The Dark Mechanicum.
or Drukhari? Yeah, I thought it might. I was hoping for that kind of reaction, to be honest. Because I watched a video like literally just today about like the Dark Mechanicum, about like their whole history, a little bit of stuff. So, because obviously they just like recycle people for parts, sort of.
Yeah.
But obviously like Drukhari, they like torture and take people for like more entertainment. So I just wondered what your thoughts were, what you think would be worse.
It's interesting because yes, the Drukhari do take prisoners, slaves, and use them in sort of for the entertainment of the Drukhari.
Yeah.
But it's not purely just for entertainment. Do you actually know why they do all this stuff?
Why the Drakari take people as like slaves and stuff.
Yeah, and why they have all of these sort of really dark scientific experiments, and why they have the blood sports and stuff like that.
Is it to do with one of the Chaos Gods?
It is.
I can't remember. Is it Khorne?
No.
It would be Slaanesh then, won't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, effectively, the Eldari, before they were split into all their different sub-factions, basically they're responsible for the creation of Slaanesh.
Yes.
Yeah. So they accidentally created the god of hedonism.
I actually did know that, because obviously they are very, very psychically powerful beings.
They are.
And with all that psychic energy in like one space, like that's a lot.
Yeah, so they have very bright souls in the immaterial.
Yeah.
And
We talked about that on a previous stream, I think, about
absolutely.
psychers and stuff in the immaterium and that.
But yeah, so they accidentally create Slaanesh. And because of that, Slaanesh very much likes Eldari souls. So whenever an Eldari dies, instead of their souls being released and going into whatever afterlife most other species get the benefit of, and to be honest, I'm not even sure how solid information that is, Eldari souls actually get consumed by Slaanesh on their death.
Ouch.
So the Eldari, or different sects of the Eldari, decided that they needed some way of obviously preventing their souls from being devoured by Slaanesh. So the Craft World Eldar, or Eldari should I say, let's use the GW's IP, they basically, when they die, their souls get put into what's called a soul stone. And they basically live on eternally, kind of, in basically almost like a computer. But it's
Right.
not quite. It's not quite like that. It's a bit more mystical. And that's where you get stuff like the Wraith constructs and stuff. Those Wraith constructs are actually Eldari souls put into a machine so that they can pilot it from beyond the grave. Similar concept to Dreadnoughts. Just there's no living matter. There's no like body. It's just the mind or the soul.
God.
So that's how they've dealt with it. But the Drakari discovered that the more pain and horror and violence they commit, they can actually extend their lives so they don't die. So basically their whole concept is, well, let's not die at all.
Well, yeah.
So that they don't have to get munched on by Slaanesh. And there might be a little bit more to it than that, because I'm not the most well versed in Drakari lore, but that is the essence of it. So they do these things as ironically, as a survival mechanism. So to them, I mean, it depends. There is some school of thought that maybe the Drakari aren't really evil. What they do is morally evil.
Yeah.
But their reasons are self-preservation, and one could argue, well, would you potentially not do the same in that situation? But that's a philosophical debate we won't go into.
Yeah. Probably not the right time.
So yeah, so they do all this torture and murder and whatever you like to preserve their own lives. But from the perspective of somebody who's being caught by them, obviously that don't really make a difference. The dark mechanicum, on the other hand, well, now they do unspeakable things to people because they worship the dark gods. Well, I think they worship the dark gods, don't they?
Yeah. The machine god, I'm pretty sure.
Well, no,
I'm not sure if they have a chaos god that they latch onto, but I'm pretty sure it's the machine god.
well, the machine god, the Omnisire,
Yes.
is what the Mechanicus worship, which is also the Emperor.
Yeah.
But the Dark Mechanicus are a bit different.
Right.
And I'm not sure, I don't know a lot about Dark Mechanicum. But I'm not sure whether they still worship the Omnissiah, or whether they've shifted their focus to the Chaos Gods, or whether they're now worshipping Vashtor, who is the newest major character they've probably introduced other than Primarch. Do you know who Vashtor is?
I don't even know if I've heard the name before.
Okay, so he's basically a new character who's come into the sort of 40k timeline.
Yeah.
Who is effectively a demigod. He's like a demigod of chaos. He's not quite a full god of chaos, but he wants to become the 5th chaos god.
Right.
And he is the god of machines, technology and stuff like that. So there's a potential that the Dark Mechanicus are going to, if they ever get any more storylines or lore in 40k, they may end up becoming worshippers of Vashtor.
Yikes.
So yeah, that's an interesting point. That obviously the goal of what's happening in both scenarios is quite different. One is almost a survival mechanic that's gone completely over the top.
Yeah, very.
And then the other is a group that is doing unspeakable things simply because they believe it's what they are meant to do by their god.
Yeah.
Now the question is, what is worse?
That was my question.
Being tortured?
Yeah.
Potentially. Being experimented on? Potentially. Or just being used as some kind of cannon fodder or a slave in Comora. Or, with the Dark Mech, wow. I have a funny feeling the Dark Mech might actually be worse.
Yeah.
Because, with the Drukhari, you're not guaranteed what fate you're going to meet. You're unlikely to meet all of them, because usually you'll die under one or the other. So, you could be chucked into the gladiatorial arenas, and you might, have a chance of surviving and doing well, and, lasting more than a week. You might just be a house slave or something like that to a Drukhari lord. And then there's obviously the horrific experiments of the homunculi, which you don't want to be a part of.
Nope.
But with the Dark Mech, they are going to use you as an experimental tool to create some kind of demon-forged monstrosity. The Dark Mech don't really just use slaves like a Drukhari would. They are going to use you as a bit of meat for their experiments. It's not going to be a very pleasant experience. And also, there's a good chance that you'll live through it all.
Yeah.
Whereas at least with the Drukhari, you're probably going to die. Sometimes maybe not quickly, depending where you end up in Comora, but eventually you're going to die.
So, you're saying that it would be worse to be captured by the Dark Mechanicum. That's the conclusion that you've come to.
Potentially. I don't like the idea of being stuffed inside a demon engine and being tortured for eternity.
No, me neither.
Yeah, whereas at least with the Drukhari, there's a chance that I might just get killed off really, really quickly in an arena.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be captured by the Mechanicus, because they'll probably just turn me into a servitor. Dark Mechanicus are going to turn me into a server and stuff a demon on my ass.
Yeah.
I don't fancy that at all.
No, I mean, both of those options suck, so, yeah.
Yeah. So if I don't want to be captured by the Mechanicus, I really don't want to be captured by the Dark Mech. I don't fancy that fate one bit.
No.
So yeah, there you go. What's your thought? Is that what you were expecting, or is a bit more information changed your opinion?
I definitely had a feeling what you were gonna say anyway, but I originally had said it would probably be worse to be captured by the Drukhari, but now I think I agree with you on the Dark Mechanicum. Yeah. I didn't quite think about being stuffed into a demon engine, really. That doesn't really sound very, sound very appealing at all, to be honest.
It's certainly not conducive to life, is it?
No.
It's not gonna be a pleasant existence if you do live through it.
No.
Yeah, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is only war, is well named.
Yeah, definitely.
It is grim, it is dark. And to be honest, I don't think there are many factions you'd want to be captured by.
No.
Like, currently, at the moment, I think the only faction where you might be okay to be captured by is probably Votan. The Space Dwarves.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing really that's been mentioned about their dark side yet.
No.
Whereas, no, the Eldari just don't like humans. So they're not likely to treat you very well, no matter what flavour.
Yeah.
Tau, I mean, you might potentially live a relatively peaceful life, but you'll live a life without any freedom whatsoever. Because they are very strict on the way they do things. The Imperium of Man will probably just turn you into a servitor, which is pretty bad.
Or you'll become part of the Imperial Guard and die on your first day.
Yeah, I mean, they do have what are called penal legions, so yeah, you could end up just becoming a prison soldier, or
Soldier of...
a convict.
Yeah.
Soldier. Equally not a fun prospect, I would have thought. Yeah, there's... Can't imagine most Space Marines are going to spend a lot of time looking after you if you get captured as a prisoner of war.
Unless they're salamanders.
Unless they're salamanders, I suppose, but...
Maybe Ultramarines?
Yeah, I'd imagine... The funny thing is, I think if you got captured by Space Marines, they would just hand you off to one of the other factions,
Yeah.
and then you're in trouble, because none of them are going to be very nice to you.
No.
Yeah, I don't think the Space Marines are really going to bother actually keeping you around if they've got to.
Yeah. Do you have a favourite Xenos faction? If you had to pick, do you know what your favourite would be?
I'd struggle.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big fan of the Xenos factions. I like them all.
Because we obviously on the channel we have talked about how we want more Xeno representation, because it very much feels like it's Tyranids. Little bit of World Eaters, tiniest bit of Drukhari.
I mean, it's not Tyranids, so to speak. There's quite a bit of Tyranids at the moment, because that was the starter box, but even then that's died down already, which it normally does. Yeah, I mean, I'm a massive fan of the Necrons.
Yeah.
I think they're great. I think when they first started out as the sort of undying, emotionless robots at the beginning of 40k, they weren't anything particularly special.
No.
The fact that they've now become characters in their own right, with their own motivations and personalities and stuff like that, they've become a lot more interesting. And
Yeah.
I really like that part of it. I know there are some people that disagree with that, and fair enough. But, you know, I think that they've done a hell of a lot with the Necrons, and they've made them really feel like a fleshed out faction. In their model range could do with a little bit more love, but that's neither here nor there. In fact, 2 of the best books I've listened to, because I don't have time to read them anymore, so I do the audiobooks, has been the Twice Dead King 2-parter, which I can't remember the individual names now. I think one's called Ruin, and the other one's something else, I can't remember. But either way, Twice Dead King. Great couple books about a Necron dynasty. Very interesting. And I also am aware, although I haven't actually listened to it yet, Infinite of the Divine is a very, very popular book.
It's on my list to read, yeah.
I've already got it on audio. I just haven't listened to it. So they're definitely a front runner for favourite. Depending on how you classify Votan, I mean, GW have them down as Xenos, even though technically they're a type of human. I think
they're abhuman, surely, aren't they?
Yes, they are, in theory, abhumans.
Yeah.
But they're classified by Games Workshop as Xenos. For whatever reason. I'd like to see a little bit more of them. I love fantasy dwarves, so cool.
Yeah.
The fact that the few Votan I have, I turn into Chaos Dwarves, because, I just can't help myself. The Chaos Dwarves were always in the original old world fantasy setting. I preferred the Chaos Dwarves over the normal dwarves, merely for the fact that the Chaos Dwarves actually had magic, whereas the normal dwarves in fantasy don't. And obviously, we all know I'm a bit of a fan of magic.
Just a little bit.
So I decided to make my few Votan into Chaos Dwarves to sort of hit that same theme.
Yeah.
Probably helped that the Chaos Dwarves DLC came out for Total War Warhammer 3 as well. So I was kind of on that hype train a little bit.
Yeah.
So then another cool one I really like. Probably not my favourite. Again, a bit too close to humanity for my liking.
Okay.
Space elves. I've never been a fan of elves. So space elves, Eldari, they're definitely not my top favourite. I kind of like them now. Though, after a bit of time learning a bit more about them, they're quite interesting. They're not quite the basic ones. Of all of the Eldari, the Drukhari are my favourite because they're the most different to your classic Tolkien goody elves.
Yeah.
They're almost the antithesis of that, so I quite like them.
Yeah.
Orcs. I mean,
they're so silly.
they are ridiculous in a lot of ways, and they've been portrayed as ridiculous a lot recently.
Yeah.
I actually think there is some really cool stories where they are really not the cartoonish villains, and they can be very serious and a big threat, which is why I quite like orcs, because you can kind of go down either way with them.
Yeah.
You can make them the sort of funny, haha, let's laugh at the silly orcs because they're hilariously funny, or they can be these really dark, imposing, monstrous enemies.
Yeah.
So they're great for that. And they've got some they have got some hilarious stuff, even if you are taking them seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, the concept that they can kind of make a gun work by believing in it is just funny.
Yeah, the whole warg field is a concept that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Just the fact that they can basically like look at a cardboard box and go, oh yeah, you're a bomb now.
Yeah, I mean,
that's like
I think there are some limitations to it, but it kind of boils down to that kind of idea, and it's quite funny and kind of scary if done right as well. So I'm kind of a fan of that. Orcs. Now I'm talking these through. They're definitely peaking towards the top end. At the moment. Let's think. What else we got? Tau are great. They're probably closest to the most classic sci-fi alien civilization. And for that they get major points because they are quite they hit that nice classic niche of we are the traditional sci-fi alien empire that you might see in a Star Wars movie or something. So they get major points for that.
See, Tau for me, because obviously they're the youngest race in the universe, aren't they? They're only about 6.
Don't know about the youngest race in the universe, but they're certainly the youngest faction.
Yeah, they're like about 7,000 years old, something like that.
They've not been around very long, though.
And I know that there was like that they realised that their place, like in the galaxy, as it were, is very sort of towards the bottom end when didn't they manage to take down a dreadnought and they took it to study it, and when they were rummaging around studying it, they found out that the dreadnought was about 10,000 years old, and it put into perspective for them like how small they are compared to like the rest of the galaxy.
Possibly. It's not a story I'm massively familiar with, that one, but it does sound like something that would be in there somewhere in the narrative. Yeah, they're interesting because they are so tiny and yet they've managed to hold their own.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something called the Damocles Crusades, which is when the Imperium fought against the Tower in their first sort of major war. And the Tower were beating them to a standstill and did actually kind of win, but also kind of didn't. The Imperium retreated, but they had lost a lot. And that's certainly the event where people realised that the Imperium was far beyond the capabilities of the Tau, and there's no chance the Tau would have ever beaten them. What is going on? Oh, can you not put that? Can you take that out?
Yep, I will take that out. It's my USB drive from earlier, sorry.
Yeah, USB drive was causing some trouble. Yeah, so the Tower are interesting. They're kind of cool. Probably not my favourite though, because they are. I like them because they're the classic, but they're not my favourite because they're a classic. If that makes sense.
I also just realised I said world eaters earlier. I meant to say gene stealers.
Oh.
Yeah. For some reason, I always do that.
That is quite a different.
Yeah, it's a very it's a very big difference between like two different things. So.
Yeah, that's a
Sorry about that.
very big difference. Yeah, so we have all that. Who does that leave me with? Does that leave me with Tyranids? I think that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, gene stealers and Tyranids.
Gene stealers and Tyranids, yeah. So I would say that Tyranids are probably
I see the conflict in your face.
I want them to be my favourite because they are just so cool.
Yeah.
And one of my favourite sci-fi series is the Alien series, Ridley Scott's.
Absolutely, yeah.
It is Ridley Scott, isn't it?
Ridley Scott did direct it, yeah.
Yeah, his Alien movies and that sort of whole franchise, and you know, even when it comes to stuff like AVP, I was always hoping one day the aliens would win, because they should.
I mean, AVP is still one of my favourite movies of all time.
Yeah, and I just think the true alienness of the Tyranids and whatnot just makes them that much more interesting.
Absolutely.
So I really love them. They are great, and I'm also a huge fan of the Gene Stealer cult. as well. I love the concept. I think it's really fascinating, really cool. Again, gives me that whole Aliens vibe. With
Definitely.
with the way they sort of they invade planets and stuff. It's just very cool. And before you'd asked me the question, they probably would have been my immediate stock answer. Yep, they're my favourite.
Gene Stealer Pulse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very closely followed by the Terrors.
And then Necrons.
And then probably Necrons.
Yeah.
But, having now had all that thought in my head,
yeah,
I actually think orcs.
You think the orcs are your favourite?
Probably.
Okay.
Because, from like a narrative perspective,
yeah,
they're the most interesting. Because you can do anything with them. Because they are, like, Necrons are immortal and machines, and there's only so many stories and characters you can create from that
haven't already been done.
Yeah. And there's like a certain way that they do things, and that they don't evolve or change.
Yeah.
Tyranids, kind of the opposite. They're constantly evolving, constantly changing, but they don't have characters.
They're just animals.
They're animals. They're beasts. They're a force of nature.
Yeah. All they want to do is eat.
Which is great, and you can do a lot of things with them. And I still would say they're between Tyranids / Gene Stealer Cults, definitely number 2. But orcs, because you can use them in a fun way, because you can also make them the scary villain, because they have so much potential for characterization as well, like Gazkul, Thraka, the Mad Docs, the Weird Boys. You've got things like the Buggies and stuff like that as well, which are quite hilarious in their own right. You got the Squigs, which are really funny.
Yeah.
And also can be quite scary if you do them right. You can do so much with them that, to me, they're the perfect antagonist to a story, because that you can do whatever you want with them. Whereas, so if I was writing a 40k campaign and I had, if I have a Tyranids player, right, cool, I know the storyline. It's my faction versus Tyranids. Tyranids are coming to munch. If I'm going against the Necrons, it's probably going to be somewhere along the lines of, I'm woke in the tomb world up and they're going to fight back, or they've invaded my planet, blah blah blah. And there is stuff you can do with the Necrons in terms of personality, because they are sentient and they have personality, but it feels more one note, and it doesn't have to be, but it's more likely to be. But with orcs, if I had a player comes up to me and they're an orc player and I want to write a campaign, I can literally say, what is your orcs theme? What's the mad, crazy orc that's leading them? Let's make a story based on that, because you could do anything.
Yeah.
Literally anything. Do you want to play a really grimdark story? Great. Let's make this really gritty and really dark. Do you want to just have fun with it? Cool. Bring your weirdest stuff and let's just have a laugh.
Yeah.
There is endless possibilities. So yeah, I have to say orcs have to be my favourite. And the annoying thing is, I'll never collect them. Ever.
Really?
No. Because I don't want to paint them.
Yeah, oh my god, can you imagine that much green?
It's not even the fact that it's not the green. Green's not the scary thing. It's the junkyard aesthetic. There's so many colours on every model.
And you don't like painting at the best of times, and I think that actually would kill you off if you did that.
I couldn't do it.
Because that was going to be my next question, was would you ever collect an orc army? But you've answered my question already.
Yeah, I would love to own an orc army.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Absolutely.
But I think any Warhammer player would love to own at least one of each army.
I'd imagine most people would. But orcs would be like one of the armies that I really want, but I'll never have.
Yeah.
Because I'll never paint it.
No.
There's not a chance in the world.
No.
If I can ever afford to have my armies painted by somebody else, the first army I'm going to do is I'm going to convert an orc army up and have someone else paint it, because I'd love to have an orc army, just I'm not painting it.
No.
So yeah, it's both my favourite and the one army that I will never actually paint myself.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Whereas like a Tyranid army, I'd quite happily paint, because they're relatively comfortable to paint.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
I don't know if I have a favourite Xenos faction. I do like Necrons, I just don't like playing against them. But that's mostly because Jamie's horrible and plays them.
Yeah, but to be fair, you don't like any of the armies I play. Not because you don't like the armies, it's because you're playing me.
I mean, that too, yeah, mostly.
Don't hold that against the Necrons, that's not their fault.
No. I think if I had to choose, it would be a toss-up between probably the Necrons and the Gene Stealers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Gene Stealers thing is mostly because I loved their portrayal in the Angels of Death.
Yeah.
The Blood Angels animatic on Warhammer TV. It's like my favourite
Yes, how many
piece of Warhammer media.
How many times have you watched it? In the last 6 months?
In the last 6 months, I've probably watched it about 6 times.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it.
That's an unhealthy amount of times.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, I haven't watched it in, like,
2 days?
maybe 2 months, to be
I
honest.
don't think it was that long ago.
Like 4 weeks, something like
Yeah,
that.
probably
It's,
closer.
yeah, it's only, it's been, yeah. But I really like their portrayal in that. And also they're just like, I don't know, I just think they're really cool, and I despise the idea of the Drukhari and the Eldari, so neither of those would be my favourite. Tyranids are just little guys who want to eat, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they're a favourite of mine. So yeah, I think it's probably the Necrons or the Gene Stealers, but if I had to choose one, it would probably be Gene Stealers. So yeah.
Also,
Yes.
as much as I would love to play Gene Stealers,
Yes.
I'm not painting that either.
I thought they'd be relatively easy.
Nah. They're not only a faction that has like lots of intricate details on all their models, you need a lot of models.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they cheap?
They are dirt cheap. They're cheaper than most Imperial Guard units.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are one of the hoardiest armies in the game.
Damn. I was not expecting that, actually.
I mean, you can bulk it out with some vehicles and stuff, but yeah, generally speaking, you're bringing massed infantry. Like at least with armies like orcs, you can very much go down the whole mechanized route and big zombie robots and stuff. Necrons, you can do the same. You can bring lots of constructs and stuff, which are awesome. Tyranids, you can bring all the big monsters. But Genestealer cults only have infantry and a handful of vehicles, so you are bringing masses of infantry.
Yeah.
And that has always been the way with Genestealer cults since they come out, really.
Do you think it would be easier to recreate Gene Stealers on Legions because of the smaller scale?
Easier? Not necessarily. I don't think any of them would be particularly hard.
No. Because obviously we've already got a Necrons army that you've made for Legions.
We do. And one day it will be finished. Yeah. I mean, potentially if you get into it, you can obviously try the Necrons out.
I think I've played against you as the Necrons before. I think, honestly, that's probably one of the only times I've actually won a Legions game.
Possibly.
Um,
Yeah, no, I think Gene Stealers would be another army that would work very well in Legion scale.
yeah.
Because you could really show off like the scale of an uprising.
Yeah.
But again, it would be one of the more difficult armies for someone to get into because of the sheer amount of infantry. Like these things I'm painting now, I mean, these have taken several hours to do.
Yeah.
Whereas doing the tanks, I can probably do all the tanks for these Night Lords in probably a couple of days.
Yeah.
Like all of them. Whereas this is only a couple boxes worth of infantry.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done these reasonably quickly, but
You've got about 15 bases there, isn't there?
there is 13.
Ah.
Yeah, whereas I know I can paint most vehicles now for Legions. Like I can paint a sizable amount of them in about 3 hours.
Yeah.
I've painted entire tanks on stream in a 3-hour stream.
Yeah.
I can't paint a whole set of these in a 3-hour stream.
They're very small though, so I get it.
So that's the only downfall with doing Gene Stealers, I think, in Legions, is because you would still be doing masses of infantry. I think you probably could obviously come up with some more interesting, bigger things that they could use that maybe they wouldn't get in a 40k game. Like some super sized siege mining engines and stuff like that, which would be quite cool.
Yeah.
But in order to sort of provide the flavour that is in the Gene Stealer cults, you would be doing a lot of infantry.
Yeah.
But they probably wouldn't be as complicated to paint.
No.
So that might work in their favour.
Do you have a... So, going on the opposite side now, do you have a favourite Space Marine faction?
Yes.
Do I know who they are?
You should.
Should I know who they
You
are?
should do.
Is it Thousand Suns still? Because I know you like them.
No.
No?
I'm a little bit disappointed because in the previous stream we went through this.
Alpha Legion.
Alpha Legion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although Thousand Suns and White Scars are right behind.
Yeah.
Like.
Because
very
obviously
close behind.
you've discovered this new love for the Great Khan now.
Yeah, I do love the Great Khan. He's very cool.
And obviously you've always loved Magnus ever since I've known you, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, I love Magnus. I love Thousand Suns. I love Jagatai and White Scars. But no, I think my heart will always be with Alpha Legion. I have thought about it a lot. And yeah, I love White Scars and I love Jagatai, but if they are still just that little bit too one note for me. They're all about speed.
Yeah.
And that's their whole identity. Certainly on the battlefield. So like when I'm playing games and stuff, would I enjoy playing White Scars thematically? I'd probably get bored after a while.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Whereas Thousand Suns are very much so heavily psycho focused that they fall off in other areas. So again, as much as I love psychos and magic and stuff like that, if it's your focus, you then lose other aspects.
Yeah.
Whereas with Alpha Legion, although they are like the super sneaky, so to speak, they're not the same kind of super sneaky as, say, like the Raven Guard, whose whole thing is hiding and being in the shadows, whereas Alpha Legion is very much tactical subterfuge. So for me, they give me a lot of scope to be able to basically play any role at any time, because they know every role at every time, because they've all snuck around all the other legions anyway, and they've all learned from all the other legions. So you can roll them as anything. and therefore you can thematically imagine Alpha Legion doing everything.
Yeah.
You can imagine them adopting the White Scars super speedy combat style. You can see them thematically employing lots of psychers and going down the more magic route of the Thousand Suns.
Yeah.
You could quite conceivably see them pulling out a bunch of chain axes and just charging in headlong to make themselves a World Eater's proxy.
Yeah.
They can be and do anything.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about them. They fit my desire to be able to do a bit of everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's obvious who my favourite at the moment is.
Does it look a bit like that?
Yeah.
Does it look a little bit blue?
It's a little bit blue. Little bit blue, little bit red.
I'd be a little bit worried if it wasn't at this point.
Yeah, Night Lords are definitely my favourite.
Which is interesting. They're one of the darker legions.
I know, yeah.
I wasn't expecting you to be quite so enamoured with such a dark legion.
Well, I don't know. I think that I can't remember what made me go, oh, they're really cool.
Was it just the Night Order?
Yes. To begin with, absolutely, unequivocally, yes. Because I was watching lore videos on YouTube, and his backstory, as it were, came up, and I watched it, and it was just like, I was like, oh, he's so cool. He's basically just like evil Batman. Like that's his whole thing, and I was like, I love Batman. I've been a die-hard Batman and DC fan since I was like 12 years old. Like, yeah, this is really cool. And then I looked into like their, like the army itself, like pre-heresy, heresy, and like now, although there's not many of them around now that aren't completely riddled with chaos.
Mm-hmm.
I think probably all of the ones that are left are probably riddled with chaos now.
I'd imagine most of them.
And then yeah, we were talking about like legions, and I was like, I really want a Night Lord's army, and then you were like, okay, let's do it. So we did.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to be painting them though at the time, was I?
You offered.
Yeah. Eventually.
Yeah.
Not initially.
With the promise of plastic crack.
Yeah, I had to get some out of it.
Well, yeah, no, of course. But I think to probably a close second to the Night Lords, it's probably not going to be unsurprising to people who have either followed the channel or know me personally. It's probably going to be Space Wolves. Just because I think that they are amazing. And I really, really, really want Lehman to come back. Please bring Lehman back, please. And there's so much wackiness with the Space Wolves. Like they've got like giant dogs. They ride on like massive wolves. Like you can get like in 40k scale, you can get like sergeants like on the backs of wolves, like on the base, and they're really heckin' cool. So it's just like,
for now, unless they get Legends.
Yeah.
Which is a distinct possibility with what GW's up to at the moment.
Yeah. And then after Space Wolves, I'm not really sure, to be honest.
Well, I'll be interested to see whether you go more heretic or more loyalist, because at the moment I straddle that line perfectly, because I've got chaos in Thousand Suns, loyalists in White Scars, and then my favourite is Alpha Legion, who play both sides. So I'm literally on the fence.
The thing is I don't know enough about any other Legion's army to like call them a favourite, apart from the Ultramarines. But they're not a favourite of mine. Like, I like them, I think they're cool, and obviously, you know...
You're a big fan of Bobby G.
I love Bobby G. But they're not... I don't see them as anything really that special.
I mean, a lot of people...
To be honest.
A lot of people don't. Which is a shame, actually, because although they are the poster boys... They are actually one of the most fascinating Legions.
Yeah.
I do actually have a lot of respect for the Ultramarines, but probably more so from the Heresy. And I think if I were to get you to listen to or get the book, I think it's called Mark of Calf. I think. But that's it. It's either that book or it's two books, one or the other. That's all about when the Word Bearers attacked the Ultramarines for the first time during the Heresy.
Yeah.
And essentially what happens is the Ultramarines and the Word Bearers are mustering at a world called Calf for a campaign against, I think it's some Xenos or rebel force. And the Word Bearers basically gather up all of the Ultramarines and pretend to be all nicey nice, and then they commit a betrayal in the middle of the muster and start slaughtering all the Ultramarines, and there's this massive battle. The Ultramarines have no idea what's going on. They don't know whether to shoot the Word Bearers or not, and then all of a sudden the Word Bearers start summoning demons on top of them, and it gets a little bit chaotic, and it's one of the best books I've read so far. It's absolutely brilliant.
God, that sounds awful though.
And there's an epic scene where Lorgar calls Guilliman and basically gloats at him that he's about to obviously wipe out his legion, and Guilliman basically just says no. And I think there is also really, if I remember right, there's like a really cool scene where Guilliman leaps out of a spaceship to run across the hull to get to another part of it. It's just it's a cool scene.
Yeah.
The Heresy books do a really good job of making most of the Primarchs feel quite epic. Even Mr. Excel himself is quite epic in that one.
I'm gonna have to start the Heresy series, aren't I? I'm just gonna have to.
It is a really good series, I have to say. You wouldn't do yourself any disservice by giving it a watch. Listen, even.
Yeah.
These command squad's almost done now.
They do look very nice. I like them a lot.
The banner's going to be done after the wash.
Yeah.
I'm thinking a nice flesh tone.
Yeah.
Yeah, big skin banner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, Night Lords.
Yeah.
They like to show a bit of skin.
Yeah.
Not their own.
Just a bit, not their own.
Not
just
their
a bit.
And of course, we've had a lovely message there from what I can only assume to be a scam bot.
Yeah, that's definitely a scam bot, isn't
Yeah.
it? Lovely.
And it took me ages to figure out how to remove it last time, and I have. no idea how I did it. But yeah, you keep chatting away. I'm going to see if I can try and remove this.
Yeah, so I think I don't really have another favourite other than the Night Lords and Space Wolves. I probably would say Alpha Legion, but even though I've had like a lot of information from you, because obviously they are your favourite, I probably would need to know more about the inner workings of their army and like the specific army history for me to make that decision whether they were a favourite or not. But yeah, so definitely those two for me. I think Space Marines are my jam, like genuinely.
They are most people's.
It's not that I don't like Xenos, it's just that I definitely enjoy the idea, it's going to sound so weird, but I definitely enjoy the idea of big men in armour rather than skinny aliens and a little bit of armour with like tiny guns. Do you know what I mean? Unless they're Necrons, then obviously that's different.
I mean, yeah, kind of. I definitely would love to do a convert my own Xenos faction at some point.
Yeah. Oh no, I think that's a great idea. And I enjoyed the fact that with Warhammer you can almost have like free reign to create like your own factions and stuff. Like, I know that you've done it quite a few times, you've converted your own factions and chapters and stuff. How many of those have you actually done? Because you've got quite a few. And I'm looking at the cabinet behind you now. Wow. It's better actually for me to look through it through the camera.
Well, I've got a custom Space Marine chapter. I've got currently 2 versions of a Necron Dynasty.
Uh-huh.
I have a converted Undead Thousand Suns army. I have a Leagues of Hashut, or Chaos Dwarves.
Yeah.
I started an Alpha Legion style successor chapter kind of thing, but then I went proper Alpha Legion.
Yeah.
I've got a converted Drakari army, which is like more Space Vampire than Space Elf. Mm-hmm. And then in Legions, I have my own Solar Auxilia faction, I have my own Knight faction, and my own Titan faction. So, yeah, of all the armies I own, I only have 2 actual GW lore armies, and they're both Alpha Legion.
Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. I generally make my own factions, as a general rule.
Yeah.
I do have fun doing it.
But yeah, I'm not sure. Do Adeptus Mechanicus count as? Are they Xenos?
No,
they're not.
No, they're human.
They're human,
part of the
aren't they?
Imperium, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're fully Imperium. They just believe in the tech god rather than the Emperor, which is also the Emperor. So they believe in the Emperor in the
the man who doesn't want to see himself as a god. Yeah.
Yeah, who conveniently becomes a god in all but name. Well, actually in name now. But did he plan that all along?
Did we talk about this the other day? Whether we thought about whether he planned the heresy?
Well, I mentioned to you that that's a prevailing theory.
Yeah.
That it might have all been part of some super mega 1,000-year plan in the making kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I have to say is quite a convincing possibility when you think about some of the stuff that happened. It wouldn't be hard to believe.
Yeah.
Because some of his decisions during the heresy or pre-heresy just make no sense.
Yeah. I have my reservations about the Emperor anyway, but I just feel like he definitely, the way he treated some of the Primarchs and how it's very different from how he treated others is definitely very telling with why the people that betrayed him did. Like, the way he like, for example, the way he treated Magnus made sense for then why Magnus betrayed him.
Are you saying Magnus was right to betray him?
Yes. And anybody who doesn't agree with me on that,
Fight me.
did you read it? Have you seen any of it? Have you even, like, what's going on with that? Because you're wrong. So, fight me if you want to. I don't care.
Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, he made some decisions.
He made some stupid decisions, yeah.
And I think, yeah, I definitely think there is a strong possibility that maybe it was all part of a plan. Because why would you make some of those decisions are so dumb that you can't really believe that an all-powerful entity such as the Emperor of Mankind would have made those decisions not realising what would happen. Like Angron.
Yeah.
There's no way he didn't know at some point Angron was going to turn on him. Like, even if the heresy hadn't happened, I think Angron would have turned on him.
Yeah, and I mean, he had the opportunity, I think we mentioned this before, but he had the opportunity to remove those nails from Angron's head and he chose not to.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't show that he planned for it all, then I don't really know what does. The only thing that does stump me, that if he knew what was going to happen, was Horus. Because Horus was probably the only one, apart from maybe Sanguinius, that the Emperor did right by.
Depends what you mean by did right by.
Well, I mean, he gave him...
He treated half the Primarchs quite well. He very conveniently didn't treat half very well at all. Which is interesting considering, you know, the heresy and the nice split down the middle. Almost like there was a bargain put in place that, you know, a certain group of dark gods might get half the Primarchs.
And that was why Erda let them go in the first place, because she knew what the Emperor had planned. She made sure they got scattered as far away from each other as possible to give them the best chance they could on their own so he could get to them. Obviously he got to them in the end anyway, but...
Yeah, I mean, you know, because that's how the story needs to happen.
Can't have no 40k without, you know, suffering.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think he probably did potentially plan it all.
Yeah, I think he did too.
The real question is though, did he plan it all to defeat the Chaos Gods, or was it just a power trip? Did he just want to become a god? That's a lot harder to answer, really.
Yeah.
Because we don't really have a whole lot of actual information about him as a person, as a human. Because he's never spoken about like a human. He's always spoken about as a god. Even when he wasn't a god. Or worshipped as one.
Yeah.
He was almost deified by people without outright saying it.
Even though he always, said that, oh, I'm not a god, don't treat me like a god, and then didn't stop Lorgar when he was writing a book, like basically a Bible about how to be, like how to pray correctly to the Emperor or something along those lines.
I mean, yeah, he wrote the religion that would become the Imperium's religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't stop Lorgar until after all of that had been done, and then he had to do it in such a horrific way of humiliating him and his legion.
Yeah.
Almost like you intended for him to turn against him. Nope, sorry, I'm getting back onto that point again.
Just so that he could be the big guy and, and save the day by purging the problem and all that.
I don't even know if I had anything to do with that. I think it was quite literally just to scar Lorgar into being pushed into the Chaos Gods' embrace, really.
Yeah.
Because it was all part of the plan.
If it was all part of the plan, do you think that Ferrus Manus's death was planned?
Well, although I think it was all planned to a degree, I don't think he knew every detail.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he expected Horus to be the one to betray him, for example. I think he was expecting someone else, Lorgar, to be the ringleader of the betrayal, and I don't think he predicted Ferrus dying at that point. I don't think he predicted Sanguinius dying and stuff like that.
No, I think Sanguinius' death was the one that shook them all, really, wasn't it? I mean, the most loved Primarch dies at the hands of...
I mean, one would argue the most loved Primarch was the one that betrayed him, which was Horus. Horus was loved by almost all of his brothers, respected by the others, and only really it was Korax that didn't like him.
Why didn't Korax like him?
To cut a long story short, Horus used the Raven Guard as a blunt force instrument in a war, and Korax doesn't like doing war that way, and he lost a lot of his legion during that battle, so he refused to have a fight with Horus again.
Well, yeah, that makes sense, to be honest.
Yeah, that's pretty much the crux of it.
But yeah, I don't hold much love for the Emperor. He's definitely the biggest villain in the setting. I've said that from day one.
Essentially.
And now, he's an undead corpse on a throne for eternity. So, karma got him in the end, as far as I'm aware.
Well, until he wakes up.
Until he wakes up. Now, so, say the Emperor wakes up, right? He gets off the Golden Throne, he returns back to his further. What do you think he'll do first?
Depends on the manner of his return, I suppose, isn't it? If he comes back as a demigod or as a godlike entity, or whether he just comes back like he was before as just a really powerful psychic ruler of man. Kind of depends. I'm not really sure.
Do you want him to come back?
It depends. If I could have him come back in 40k, not just end in a year or two after that event,
Yeah.
then yes, because screw it, it would probably be really cool. But if him coming back would mean the end of 40k, because they'd have to wrap up the storyline for whatever reason, then no, keep him on the throne. Keep him there. Don't ever get him up. Like, because I don't want to lose 40k.
That makes sense.
I've already lost the old world once, and they brought it back, and they made it too expensive for me to want to get back into it. Don't lose me 40k. I would be heartbroken.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think they should bring him back. I think they should leave him on the throne indefinitely. Unless, when it comes round to like 50k, they bring him back for like another heresy or something like that, like another
Heresy?
another like big war that they need him for. Or unless they bring him back as the big bad. If they brought him back as the big bad, fuck yeah, I'll go with that. I think that'd be amazing, because like everybody, I don't understand how anybody could not see him as a villain. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just, yeah.
He comes back and he is the 5th Chaos God, screw Vastor.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Mate, I almost think 40k needs a 5th Chaos God.
Yeah.
Because AOS has a 5th Chaos God.
Do they?
Yeah, they do. Do you know who it is?
No.
The Great Horned Rat.
The Great Horned Rat. Is it genuinely just a rat with a massive horn?
It's the Great Horned Rat. It's the god of the Skaven.
Wow, they have a god?
Yeah, called the Great Horned Rat. Yeah, the Skaven have their own god, and the Skaven's god is the 5th Chaos God.
Amazing. Did they do like an Eldari? Did they create the god themselves?
They manifested the Great Horned Rat.
Amazing. See,
Don't forget, in like 40k, and I assume in Age of Sigmar as well, the gods of chaos are created by the emotions and the beliefs of people in the mortal realm, or in the material plane in 40k. So, because so many people were impacted by death and murder and stuff, Khorne was born. Because the Eldari went completely hedonistic and started doing all that weird stuff.
they
created Slanesh. The Great Plagues on Earth apparently created Nurgle. And I can't remember how Xenos was born into existence, but you know, manipulation and change and stuff like that is a natural part of the existence, so it's quite an obvious idea that he would spawn into existence. Vastor has been spawned into existence because of the prevalence of technologies and stuff like that, and so he's become like the dark god of tech. So, in AOS, Skaven, well, let's put it this way, so in the AOS timeline, those Chaos Gods were created by humans, or human-like species. Think about how many humans there are. Let's just put a number. So let's use real Earth numbers. So on Earth there are 7 billion people on the planet. So if it takes about 7 billion people to create a Chaos God through their actions and emotions, the Skaven are rats. How many billions of rats do you think there are?
Hundreds of billions.
Yeah. So it's not hard to imagine that because a bunch of these rats started believing in some random rat god, that they literally just made one
Yeah.
by believing in it. Yeah. like even the orcs have their own gods.
Gork and Mork.
Gork and Mork, which quite possibly are genuinely real gods that exist.
And
isn't there one
called Bork as well?
Not as far as I know. But yeah,
Sure there's a third.
Gork and Mork, certainly in like the fantasy storylines and stuff, they existed. They were genuine gods. They existed. In 40k, I'm not quite sure whether that still applies. But if they do exist in 40k,
they still do exist.
if they do exist as entities in 40k, I'd imagine they are also minor chaos gods.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. One would, definitely would probably put them in that category. Yeah. Have you ever played Age of Sigmar? Honestly, I have absolutely no idea about any of the Age of Sigmar stuff, apart from obviously Skaven, but that's because they're from old fantasy, and I've heard you talk about them quite a bit.
AOS, I really, really, really love the models, and I would love to collect the giants.
Yes.
Ironically, actually, I really wanted to collect the giants even before I got into knights. 40k, so that kind of ties in nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to do probably a mixture of them and the ogre kingdoms.
Yeah.
But AOS doesn't appeal to me as a game, because to me, fantasy is rank and file warfare.
Right.
Where you have like ranks and ranks of troops in big block formations, like old, like proper historical combat. AOS is basically 40k but with bows.
40k but with bows.
That's what it is. I mean, it's more melee focused than 40k, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. It's basically 40k in a fantasy setting, whereas Old World is like a historical war game with fantasy.
Yeah.
And that's why I've got no interest in AOS. Because I want it to, for me, a fantasy pseudo-medieval setting should be a pseudo-historical war game with fantasy elements.
Yeah.
Whereas AOS is just a version of 40k with a different skin on.
Yeah.
So therefore I'd rather play 40k.
That makes sense, yeah.
But AOS's model range is gorgeous.
Yeah, I do have to say, when we've been in like the Warhammer shop and stuff, and because usually you do point out the giants and the ogres and stuff if they've got boxes in there. I have like looked over like the rest of the models, and they do look beautiful.
Like the new Mega Gargants, they're giants. Oh, they're so cool. So cool. And
Yeah.
one day I will buy one just to have. I may try and convert it to be something in 40k because so that I could use it as something, but
Yeah.
it's just a nice kit. If I were to do fantasy, I would go Old World,
Yeah.
but at the moment, the way they've priced Old World, it's just no. It's so expensive for model kits that are like 30, 40 years old. It's not right.
It's a lot of investment for something so expensive as well.
Yeah.
The amount of time that you'd have to spend.
And you also got to remember as well, because it's more like a historical war game, you will need blocks of infantry.
So, yeah.
And so you're not only talking about a lot of time and pain, you're also talking about a lot of money as well.
Yeah.
Like, a minimum size block of infantry is going to be, in most armies, 20 men strong.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And that's just one block of infantry.
Yeah.
Not even talking about the other 5 you probably want to make a battle line and the cavalry and all the other stuff. I mean, it's just mad. So yeah. And at the prices they're selling them for, it would cost you thousands to actually make an army.
Yeah.
Certainly in the hundreds. But I'd be willing to bet you'd be well into your £1,000 or more mark.
Yeah. Because, I mean, Warhammer can be an expensive hobby.
No. It is an expensive hobby. There's no can be. It is. Like,
Yeah.
even like the cheapest armies you can buy are still expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the cheapest army you can buy, like if you were doing it direct from Games Workshop, it still costs about £350 to make a £2,000 army.
350
I think. If I'm right.
pounds for a 2,000 point army. Yeah, I
probably
suppose
probably isn't a very good army, but I think you can do it.
Yeah. And then obviously you got to think about like paints and stuff, and then if you're 3D printing as well, then you have to.
Well, 3D printing can reduce the cost depending on how you do it. But,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting one. It's an expensive hobby,
Yeah.
no matter which way you swing it. But there are ways of making it less.
Yeah.
But Old World is just another scale.
It's really a shame because it does look like it would be really fun to play.
Yeah, I think it is supposed to be a good, fun game to play. Sounds like the rules, the new rules they've written for it, are a nice mix of the old rules and modern rule styles.
Yeah.
Which is great because you get a little bit of both. You get a little bit of nostalgia as well as the little bit of the modern take.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've priced themselves out, I think, for most people.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure that's probably intentional because they probably know the real diehards will pay the money.
Yeah.
And the ones who aren't diehards who would be interested, they'd rather filter into AOS. Which is a shame.
Yeah.
Not if you're an AOS fan, I suppose. That's probably a good thing, but
Yeah.
in my opinion, they never should have got rid of the old world in the first place. But, you know, I'm biased.
There's nothing wrong with being biased. I have a feeling most people would agree with you, to be fair.
Well, I think some people will agree with me, but I also know that AOS does have a big following. It's the second biggest game Games Workshop makes.
Yeah.
And for good reason. You know, it does appeal to a lot of people. You know, there will be people that are quite happy to have the 40k fantasy game.
Yeah.
Because they don't want the complexity of a historical war game,
Yeah.
but still like to play a fantasy game, which is fair enough. But it's just not my thing.
That's fair enough.
So yeah, I don't think I'll ever play AOS, or if I do, I will play it, but I will not commit to making armies of it. I might borrow someone else's army and give it a go, but
Yeah.
it will never be Old World to me.
It won't. Yeah. It won't be.
Like one day, I would like to play Old World.
Yeah. Of course.
But if we do ever do Old World, sadly, it might be a case we'd have to 3D print the armies
Yeah.
because
Oh my god. Yeah.
I'm not paying those prices. It's too much.
And sometimes too much is too much, isn't it? Like that.
You got to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to know how much I've spent on Legions, to be honest, because
Well, we checked, didn't we? Obviously,
because some people, when it first came out, said that this game was going to be astronomically expensive. And realistically, I don't think we've spent all that much on it, because we mostly got most of this most of it from box sets.
Yeah.
Most of it's come from box sets, and like I think I'm pushing 15,000 points now of stuff I've painted.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like we have literal armies.
Well, maybe we could work it out. So, how many
It's probably best not to work out on string, just in case it's a lot worse than we think it is.
Well, maybe we can just do one thing. So, those solar auxilia boxes. So the solar auxilia box that I got out of the last stream.
Yeah.
That's a battle group, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how many of those have you bought?
2.
And how much are they each?
90 quid.
So that's £180 for what? Probably an entire supporting army?
Well, those 2 boxes pretty much give you a solar auxilia army.
Yeah.
Or just shy of it. It's nearly 3,000 points.
And we did check, didn't we, on Element Games? Oh, excuse me. Was it yesterday or the day before? That box has now sold out.
It has now officially sold out.
And there were 6 left after you bought that one.
Yeah.
So, 6 very lucky people got in there very quickly, so that's good.
Yeah, I don't know why they suddenly disappeared.
No, that's a bit... But
Maybe people were watching our streams when I said about them being a really good value.
maybe, but hey, that's good for us, views and that. I think personally, I have probably spent about £90 on boxes so far, because I think I've bought 2 boxes of infantry, a box of Sicarans, and a box of Kratos. So it's probably about
You also bought some
£105.
You also bought some knights.
Oh, I did also buy knights. It's probably about 150. I think I bought 2 boxes of knights.
But again, I mean, no, you only bought 1 box. So.
Oh.
Again, for about 150 odd quid, you've basically made a 3,000 point army. It's not far off it anyway.
Yeah.
So again, for less than £200, just those 2 armies alone, so yours and my solar auxilia, is 2 entire armies.
Yeah.
Whereas the cheapest army you can get in 40k is over 350 quid.
Yeah.
We've made 2 normal armies in Legions for less than £200 each.
Yeah.
For like 350 odd quid, you could probably get about 4,000 or 5,000 points of Legions.
Yeah.
Give or take. I mean, like I said, with the amount of stuff that we've got, I mean, I think I've now painted about 15,000 points.
Yeah.
But we are lucky in the sense that we bought a lot of stuff, or certainly I did anyway, through big box sets.
Yeah.
Which has drastically reduced the expense.
Yeah.
And that's the only sad thing is a lot of those aren't available anymore.
Yeah.
Which I think some people are going to be very upset about when they realise that you can't get them anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a mistake by Games Workshop. I think they should have made those boxes like standard. Like the Solar Auxilia box. Like the actual launch box, that's a standard product. That's not going away. They will still make that.
Yeah.
We also bought 2 of those.
This is getting so expensive now.
I say we, those were mine. I bought 2 of those.
Yeah.
So I've again, but those 2 boxes gave me a lot of points. Like I think that's it, about 3,000 points again.
Yeah. Just
from those 2 boxes. Possibly a little bit more. There's what? I mean, there's about 1,100 points or so in Titans in those 2 boxes.
That's true.
not including the Solar Auxiliary and the Space Marines I got in those boxes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it doesn't have to be that expensive necessarily. I don't know how it works now that a lot of those boxes don't exist. Like the starter box, I still think is really good, and I have no regrets buying two because they were good value for money.
Yeah.
You know, the extra rule book and stuff is probably the only thing that was dead weight.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there, I don't think.
Yeah.
So if you were to get into Legions now, I'd be looking at those star boxes, thinking, right, I need to buddy up with someone and either buy one or commit to playing both those armies and buy one, probably two.
Yeah, definitely.
But then you are committing to playing Solar Auxiliary, Astartes, and Titans at that point.
Yeah.
Which might not be for everybody. It's not for you, for example. I mean, you don't do Solar Ox.
No.
And you don't do Titans.
I don't mind the Solar Auxiliary. It's just that I don't think that with the current army that I've got that it would make sense to put them together because Night Lords hate humans.
True.
And no, I don't like Titans.
I still think you should get Titans.
I can barely handle the Knights at the moment. I think I should probably get those down to a T before I move on to Titans. If I move on to Titans, I should say.
Personally, I think the Titans are easier to manage. They're a lot easier because you only need like one or two.
Yeah.
So they're easier to learn as well. Would be my advice on them. I think they're great, and they're also really good for filling up points. Like the smallest Titan's 330 points.
That's really expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Warhounds are a little bit overcosted.
Yeah.
A little bit. I don't think you'd have to knock masses off them. I know. I watched one YouTuber who reckoned that they should be knocked down to about 300 points, and I think they're probably about right.
What did you say they were? 330.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. To be fair.
Because then you could also actually run more than one, official list as well.
Yeah.
As an ally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the Titans are really good, and they're really good point fillers.
Yeah.
They're really good point fillers. Like if you get your little 2,000 point list, you can just go, or just over 2,000 points, you could just whack a Titan in there, and that's it. You've 3,000 points done, just like that.
Yeah.
I would also think Titans are probably the cheapest army to collect as well. Outside of
I mean, on points value alone?
outside of the box, like the special boxes we've bought where we've got models cheaper.
Uh-huh.
Like if you're just buying boxes as they're on the shelves, I think Titans are probably the cheapest army to collect.
You're probably not wrong.
Because you only need a handful of them to make points.
Yeah.
And they are quite generous. There's some of the best points per pound you can get. Although, possibly Knights are better.
Yeah.
I think the Knights might be slightly better for points per pound. Like I know the Crastorus Knights are absolutely the best value for money.
Are those the ones that you've got, or those ones I've got?
Yeah, those ones I've got.
Yeah.
They're the slightly smaller ones.
Yeah.
With the rocket pods and the fists.
Chunkier on the shoulders.
Yeah.
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 The ones that I took out in the last game that we played.
I still had one.
No, I took them both out.
No, you're thinking of the Castus. Those are the big chunky ones.
Oh, those ones.
I'm talking about the little squat ones.
Oh, those ones.
Yes.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
They sound so similar, isn't it?
They're the best value.
Yeah.
Because I think they're about. I think you can buy them from Enemy Games for like less than 25 quid.
Yeah.
And that box comes with 3 of them, and they're a minimum of 180 points each.
Yeah.
So you're getting 400 plus points for £25.
Yeah.
Or less than
That is a lot of points.
A lot of points for not a lot of cash.
Yeah.
Well, I say not a lot of cash. Relative to 40k.
Yeah.
Or relative to Warhammer, that's a lot of points. For less investment. So yeah, I think the knights probably are the most value for money. Like I bought that night box, the special night box, which I believe is one of the only ones that is still being sold currently. I think. Last time I checked, it was still on the Games Workshop store.
Right.
I think it's only like 90 quid.
Yeah.
So basically the same price as what I paid for my Soda Rocks kit.
Mm-hmm.
That Soda Rocks box gives you about 1,300 points.
Mm-hmm.
The night box, which is about the same price, gives you nearly 2,500.
Wow. That's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
for like knights, that box alone, you could almost have an entire army by buying one box.
Do you think that the Auxilia are a little bit too cheap then, points wise?
No.
No.
No, they're a little bit more expensive to collect, so to speak, but actually in terms of points, I think they're about right. They feel right.
Yeah.
You get the right number. Like, I expect them to be more of a horde army.
Yeah.
And they feel like that.
Yeah.
It's just, the more elite army it is, the less expensive it will be to collect. That's just because, obviously, you don't need as much plastic to fill the fantasy.
Yeah.
Whereas, with a horde army, you need lots of models, so that's lots more material you're paying for.
Yeah.
That gets into a whole other question about how much it actually costs to make these things. Which we won't go into.
No.
There is a lot to it. But yeah, it does stand to it does stand to reason that a horde army would always cost more than an elite army. Because you just need more of it. But that's something you've either got to be willing to accept, or something you need to plan for when you're picking your armies.
Mm.
If you don't want to spend the most amount of money because you're on a really tight budget, then you need to pick an army that's much more elite, so you're not having to spend so much money to get the points on the table.
Yeah.
That's why some of the best armies in 40k for money to collect are things like Custodes.
Yeah.
Because you only need a handful of models and you've got an army.
Yeah.
Ironically, Knights as well, just like in Legions, are one of the best points per pound you can buy.
Yeah.
Because you get so many points worth of models for every kit you buy.
Yeah.
So although those kits are quite expensive, every kit you buy is a quarter of an army.
Yeah.
Give or take. So it's kind of the way it works.
There you are then.
Yeah, no, I don't think the Legions ones are too bad.
No.
Some of the 40k ones are horrific. Like at the moment, Gene Stealer Colts and Admech are probably diabolical for how much it actually costs to collect those armies. I'm not quite sure which one's worse. I think Admech might be the worst.
Yeah.
Just because collecting those armies are so expensive. Thankfully, I have no interest in Admech.
Yeah,
I do have interest in Colt, but
well, yeah.
but not enough to want to spend that much money on them. But again, Admech in Legions.
Oh yeah.
It's actually not that bad price-wise.
No.
And again, they have a Battle Force out, which I assume is not an ongoing box again. But as far as I know, hasn't been sold out everywhere yet, so that's still available.
Yeah, that's still another thing that maybe we could think about doing at a later date, maybe.
I won't do Admech.
No.
No.
Would you paint them for me? a lot of red.
He's a lot of red.
You just done a lot of blue.
Yeah.
No, I'm totally joking. I don't think Admech have any grasp on me, to be honest. It's mostly a joke.
I was a little bit concerned I might have to paint it back.
No.
I don't know. I don't know how difficult they'd actually be at Legion scale, but I still don't fancy the idea of painting them.
Yeah, I don't blame you, really.
I'm quite happy to stick to my knights and my titans.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
And my solar.
Yeah.
I don't mind painting space marines actually.
Yeah.
I don't mind painting most of them. I don't mind painting legions. It's weird.
Yeah.
Legions I don't have a problem with. 40k miniatures I struggle to paint. But these little guys, they're rather light.
Oh yeah, they fucking slam.
Yeah. So yeah, the wash on those are almost dry.
Yeah.
So once that's done, I've just got a couple of details to do on these, and then obviously that big old banner, and that'll be your command squad done.
Yay!
Your first command squad has got another 3 to do at some point.
Woohoo!
But we're going to be replacing this little dude, who is the actual commander, with some 3D printed commanders, so you've got some variety.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, these are all done now.
Hooray!
Little termies.
They are, honestly, they are my favourite. They're so sexy, it's
They're
unbelievable.
all done. Little missile dudes. They've got their little lightning bolts on them now.
Lightning bolts.
Don't know if you'll be able to see on here. 1 in every 5 has got a little lightning bolt on a leg
Ah, look it!
and on a shoulder pad.
They're just little guys.
I don't know if that's going to focus at all.
Probably should mention as well that Jamie and I played a game.
I have just realised these aren't quite finished. I've got to put a little bit of plasma glow on him, but his little jump dudes.
Oh yeah. Oh, I see.
Got his little lightning bolts on. I'm just going to pop a little bit of plasma glow on that pistol in a minute.
But yeah, as I was saying, Jamie and I played a game on Saturday.
We did.
And I actually had my Night Lords on the tabletop, and they looked amazing. So
Alongside my Alpha Legion.
alongside the Alpha Legion, yeah, which was very weird, but you know.
Well, you need some reinforcements for the
Yes,
time being.
for the time being, until the rest of my army is done.
Yeah, I'm getting on it.
I know, and I'm very grateful again. But yeah, until the rest of my army is done, they will be the backup to my Night Lords for a bit. So.
Oh, I'm wondering when I finish all your Night Lords, maybe I'll actually play my own Alpha Legion for a change.
Yeah.
And bring the flyers back out.
Oh God.
And show you how they really should work.
Oh God. Oh. If anyone doesn't know, I stopped using the flyers in Legions about
A week ago. Wait. Yeah, we've only played 1 game, I think. 2 games.
yeah, we played 2 games. So it's probably about a couple months ago. Because
It was only a couple of weeks ago.
they were tripping me up real bad. I kept making like silly mistakes that kept getting my half of my army killed, so I stopped using them just to simplify it myself a little bit, because obviously I'm still relatively quite new. So I'm using basically just Space Marines, and since the conclusion on our last game as well, I think I'm going to stop using Knights for a while and just focus on the Marines. Because I think I need to make sure that I've got the core down to a good standard before I start bringing other bits and pieces in, which is a shame because I really like my knights. I think they're really cool.
They will come back.
Yeah, you just need to
focus in and get your head around the game a bit more and focus on the one faction so you're not worried about all the other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And how they should interact with each other.
Yeah, basically. Did you just finish that little guy's plasma thing?
Yep.
Yeah. I thought I saw you doing it, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no. The only thing I've got left to do now is just wait for these guys to finish drying off. They're almost done, but yeah, and then I've just got a couple of little lightning bolts to pop on. Maybe a little glowy effect on this dude's gun. And then just that banner.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to do in a lovely flayed flesh tone.
Lovely.
Might put a little bit. Might do a little purple wash on it, make it look a little bit more bruised.
Disgusting.
Yeah. And then what I might do, if I've got them to hand here, these are them.
Transfers.
Yeah. So we've got some little Night Lords symbols here, which I think you probably won't be able to see because
they're white, aren't they?
The Night Lords ones are white, but by the looks of it, they'll fit on that banner. So I'm thinking I might whack a little Night Lord symbol on that banner. I've got some little symbols and skulls and stuff I can put on.
Yeah.
So I shall probably put a little transfer on that.
Yeah.
Spice it up a little bit. So yeah.
Oh.
So in our next game, you'll be able to run all of your Night Lord's infantry.
I will.
And depending on how the rest of this week goes, you may even have some painted tanks.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see the tanks painted up. I'm honestly so excited.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how they turn out.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to go over before we close, or?
No, I think I'm pretty done really. I'm gonna call it there for now. I think we've had a nice little run, nice little chat. Got some hobby progress done. You've had to sit and watch your army get painted, you lucky duck.
I'm a very lucky duck. I do feel like I'm a very lucky duck.
So yeah, I shall probably finish those off at some point tomorrow.
Yeah.
Get them done, get them on their bases. And then I guess I'll have to start thinking about tanks.
Yeah.
Or dreadnoughts, I can't decide. Tanks. Sure, tanks. Got different tanks. Alright then. So, yeah, I think that is going to be it for today.
For today, yeah, I think we've come to a convenient stop, I think.
A natural point for conclusion.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm just gonna pull off the desk camera and bring me up into the centre a little bit. So there we go. That is probably it for today. I will be returning yet again on Thursday at a new regularly scheduled slot for streams. In addition to that, I can announce that hopefully very, very soon there is going to be a new wave, a new series of podcasts on the horizon, which potentially we might start recording this Friday. I'm still waiting to hear some confirmation back from some of the team. But hopefully that will be in the works and released very soon, and we've got a whole new setup. Hopefully the audio quality will be a lot better. And we've got some new graphics and a new feature spotlight that we'll be looking at as well. So yeah, other than that, really, all I can say is please do follow us over on the socials, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Go and join us on the YouTube channel. Previous episodes of our live streams will be uploaded. I've got one that I was supposed to upload yesterday as I was recording and I forgot. So that will go up tomorrow at this point, and then this one that we've just seen should be released next Monday on YouTube, and the stream from last Thursday will be uploaded just after my stream probably on Thursday or Friday actually. I haven't quite decided the release schedule for how this is going to work yet. I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah.
Especially with these random ones popping in as well. So I'm figuring that out. Yeah, we got new stuff on the way. That's it really.
And it's all good stuff, so subscribe.
Please do subscribe. And one of the biggest things for us as well is that please do share it with people you know in the hobby who might be interested.
Copy link so we can trick the algorithm.
Yeah, essentially, I think the best way to beat the algorithm is to not use it. Let's rely on word. We're going to rely more on word of mouth. Get the word out there. Message it. Put it on your forums. Let your local gaming group know that there is these weird people that talk funny stuff, and push lots of legions down people's throats. So that's the idea. Right, anyway, I think we're moving into the territory of rambling now.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I will say goodbye from us here at Mead Gaming. I have been your host Jay, and I have been joined by the lovely
Al. Subscribe, please.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time in the Mead Hall. Goodbye for now.
Bye.